Good morning, all, and happy Sabbath. It's such a privilege and an honor for me to be here again in Toronto. All the time when I'm here, I'm feel happy and blessed. Greetings from Ottawa, from our small group from Ottawa. And brethren, as usual, I'm asking you in the beginning to pray, not necessarily for me, but to pray for the message that will be delivered today. Today I will be talking about this subject that you see on the screens, the saving faith. When I prepared this sermon, the title was actually in the beginning, just faith. I put just faith. But after I've realized something, while I was studying the subject, that there is a difference between the faith that, as most of the people understand it, and the saving faith. There are 2 billion Christians in this world today. And if you ask them, all of them, they have their own faith, right? But there is only one saving faith. So today we are going to answer this question, what is that one saving faith? Do I have just a faith or I have a saving faith? So if I will ask you, what is faith? I'm sure that you are going to say this verse, right? Hebrews 11 verse 1, that now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Right? This is a definition, a biblical definition of faith. So if I'm going to tell you now, I came yesterday from Ottawa with a black car, most of you don't need faith to believe that because you know that I have a black car. Some of you don't know and you need to exercise a little bit of faith, right? Because you don't know that. You have to believe me. So faith is the substance of things hoped for, things that you cannot see, things that you cannot prove, but you hope for, right? The evidence of things not seen. What is a saving faith? In the beginning, I just want to tell you something. It's a story. Actually, my grandmother, in her kitchen, I was 3 years old, and I was going to her sometimes to spend time with her, and I've realized that in her kitchen, all her chairs were with 3 legs. All her chairs, 3 legs. And I was thinking, why all her chairs has 3 legs and not 4? I was used with chairs with 4 legs. Now the question for you is, do you know why all her chairs were with 3 legs? Why do you think? Let me help you. You know, chairs with 4 legs are very good if you have a flat floor. If the floor is flat, are very good. But if the floor is not flat, chairs with 4 legs, what happened with them? But what happened with chairs with 3 legs? They never moved. They are stable, correct? That's why for photograph or recording, you have tripods with 3 legs, right? Why I'm telling you this story? Because a faith, a saving faith, has 3, let's call them legs or pillars, or you have to remember 3 things about a saving faith. If one leg or pillar is missing, the faith cannot stand. So let's keep this in mind from the beginning. A saving faith has 3 components, or 3 legs to stand. The first one is to believe. To believe in who? To believe in God. Can you prove His existence? Can you touch Him? No, we cannot. So we have to exercise faith. You have to believe. Of course, we can try to explain, we can try to prove it, but we still need faith. For example, creation demands a creator. Do you agree with that? If I will tell you, look, I had some garbage in the trunk and coming here to Ottawa, the garbage moved and I found this wonderful bulb there. Are you going to believe me that this light bulb is the result of an explosion? No. So creation demands a creator, right? Some of you maybe know about the James Webb Space Telescope. It's a space telescope designed to conduct infrared astronomy. It was launched in space in 2021. And now, because of this telescope, because of this technology, we can see farther than before. So I will show you some pictures of our space. Okay? For example, these are not computer-generated images. These are real pictures. Okay? So keep that in mind. Also, the colors are not, the pictures were with infrared in white, black and white, so the colors were added by NASA. But this is Tarantula Nebula. This is, for example, is called Phantom Galaxy. Real pictures of our universe. This is called the Pillars of Creation. Maybe you've seen these pictures before, some of them. So I just want to show you random pictures from our universe. Beautiful pictures. All these pictures are real pictures and are not computer generated. This is one of my favorite, even if it's the boring one, because what you see there are not stars. What you see are galaxies. So it's unbelievable, right, how our universe it is. So if you look to our universe, it's no way that this huge universe, beyond our mind, it's the result of an explosion, right? So if we read in Romans chapter 1, verse 20, it says, "For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen." You can see that things. "Being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse." So first, there should be a creator, right? Second, life demands a life giver. Do you agree with that? Can you have life from nothing? This is actually, it's a law. The law of biogenesis states that life can only come from life. This is a law. You cannot have life without life, from nothing. It's no way that this beautiful child can appear from and flowers from just a cow's, right? There's no way. There should be a life giver. More, laws demands a lawgiver. Science and the Bible agree that the universe began and that it immediately operated according to the predictable natural laws. When the universe came into existence, all the laws of physics and chemistry were intact. They did not evolve. So from the really beginning, all these laws, right, physical laws, chemistry laws, were there. They were intact. They did not evolve. Remember, these laws were in existence at the first moment of creation. Scientists recognize that they had to be, as Hawking, I think you know him, acknowledged in the nature of space and time. The only way to have scientific theory is if the laws of physics hold everywhere, including at the beginning of the universe. Were this law the result of an explosion? No. There it's a law giver. So is it reasonable that to assume that these laws came about from nothing, from random chance? The answer is no. It's no, right? Now, add to that evidence the existence of unseen spiritual law, evidence of a great law giver. There it's a law giver. There's no way that all these laws were the result of an explosion. And we have in the Bible, actually, we have the answers. James 4:12, there is one lawgiver who is able to save and destroy. Isaiah 33 verse 22, for the Lord is our judge, the Lord is our lawgiver, the Lord is our king, he will save us. Design demands a designer, right? Look here, you have a beautiful design here, and I really appreciate that. Are you going to believe me if I will tell you, maybe a couple of thousand of years ago, here was a big tornado and this is the result? You cannot believe that, right? Design demands a designer. But we don't need too many proofs to believe in God, right? Because we are believers, correct? We are believers. We believe in God. And we have these evidences, but it's not like we need those evidences. We have the Bible, we have the Word, and we believe that. But is this faith? Accepting God's existence, knowing, believing that God is there and there is a creator, is this faith? No. It's a kind of, you believe. So there is a problem because in James chapter 2 verse 19 says, thou believes that there is one God. Good. Thou dost well. Very good job until now. The devils also believe and tremble. So until now, if you believe that God is there, is no difference between us and the devil. They believe also. They know actually. They've been there. So until now, we have a chair with one leg, but we cannot use it. Don't think if you believe in God, you are a faithful person. No. So we need to add the second leg of the chair, right? And here we have to work a little bit more. We have to work a little bit more to build that. And what we have to do is to build trust. Trust in who? Trust in God. But you see, trust is not something that you have it or not. You have to build that. Around you, when you are walking, traveling, around us are many people. Some people are good, some people are bad. Some people you can trust, some people you cannot trust, but you don't know. Right? To trust a person, what do you have to do? To know that person. You have to spend time with that person. Put it to the test. Do you trust it or not? So, do you trust God? Maybe you are thinking, yes. Do you really trust God? It says faith, saving faith, is to be taught. The definition of this faith in Jesus Christ may be described in few words. So let's see in the spirit of prophecy, what is this definition in a few words? It says, it is the act of the soul by which the whole man is given over the guardianship and control of Jesus Christ. Right? You trust Him, you give yourself to Him. The believer commits his soul and body to God, and with assurance may say, Christ is able to keep that which I have committed unto Him against that day. This is what? Trust. We have to trust Him. We have to trust God. Let me tell you a story. I think you know the story, but I'm curious if you know this man. Have you ever heard about Charles Blondin? I think you know the story. Some of you know the story. So Charles Blondin was a French tightrope walker and acrobat. Okay? Even if you know the story, I will tell you once again, maybe for those that you don't know the story. Here is a real picture from 1859. He was crossing the river, crossing the Niagara River. He was really, really good, actually. Sometimes people were jumping on his back, and they had the courage to cross with him. He was crossing with a bike. This is his bike, actually, adapted for that kind of job. So Blondin crossed Niagara Falls on stilts, on a bicycle, blindfolded. Just imagine to cross that, blindfolded, at night. One time, he pushed a wheelbarrow along the tightrope. You have here the picture. In the wheelbarrow was a stove. Okay? When Blondin reached the middle of the tightrope, he got out the stove, upon which he cooked an omelette. He ate the omelette and then completed the crossing. Some of us, we cannot cook an omelette on the kitchen. So he was able to cook the omelette on top of Niagara River. He ate the omelette, he cooked, he ate, and he crossed. After he crossed, he asked, "Do you believe I can go back now?" Look, people around there on the bridge, right? I think that is the bridge between US and Canada, I think. So what was the answer? If he asked them, "Do you believe I can go back?" Yes, of course you can go back, no doubt. And he pushed that a little bit further. "Do you really believe I can do it?" Yes. "If you really believe I can do it, jump in the wheelbarrow. Come with me." "Oh, there is a problem. I don't want to be there with him, to be honest. I believe him, he can do it, but I will never put myself in that wheelbarrow without any safety net. I don't know if you're going to do it or not." Now the question is, do you trust God? Do you really trust God? Look what is the reality, actually. It says, many professed Christians who have acknowledged of the sacred words and believe its truth. Thank you. It believe its truth. They believe the Bible. They believe in God. They believe in His existence. But let's see what happened. Fail in the childlike trust that is essential to the religion of Jesus. Do you trust God, brother and sister? Do you really trust God? How many times we are maybe applauding Him, right? Reading the Bible. Look what He did with the Israelites. They crossed the Red Sea. We read about Daniel in the lion's den. Wonderful God. We read about Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego in the fire. Wonderful God we have. But what about you? What about me when we are in the fire? When we are on the lion's den? When we have to face Goliath? How much do we trust God at that moment? Do you really trust God? Faith is trusting God, believing that He loves us and knows best what is for our good. This is faith. To trust Him and believing that He knows us, He loves us, and He will never let us alone. Faith is needed in the smaller, no less than the greater affairs of life. Small things. When you're doing your homework for young people, you need faith. When you're at school, exercise faith and trust in God. When you're facing an exam or difficulties, we need faith. In all our daily interests and occupations, the sustaining strength of God becomes real to us through an abiding trust. Education, page 255. When clouds come between your soul and God's, when all around you is dark and forbidding, when the enemy stands ready to rob the soul of its integrity to God and the truth, and when error stands out plausible and attractive, then it is time to pray and exercise faith in God. Do you trust God? Do you really trust God when you are in the lion's den, when you are facing Goliath, when you are in the fire, when you are in the darkness, when enemy is there to devour you and to destroy you? Just to remind you this story, right? It was a storm, and a child was playing in the ship, and he was in his room, no problems. Somebody came to him and said, "You're not afraid. Look to the storm. Look at what is outside." He said, "I'm not afraid. I'm okay." He said, "Why?" "Because my father is the captain. I know him. I know him. It's not like I'm brave, but I know my father is the captain." Psalm 9 verse 10, it says, "And they that know thy name will put their trust in thee, for thou, Lord, hast not forsaken them that seek thee. But I trust in thee, O Lord. I said, thou art my God. I trust you." So until now, we have two legs to the chair. You believe in God, right? You know about his existence. It's good. Second, you trust him. When you are in danger, maybe you trust him. "Oh, I trust God." But he's not a saving faith yet. Not yet. What do you need more? The third leg. Let's see if you know. So you believe in him, and we all here, I think, we believe in that. That's why we are here. You trust him. Each one maybe a little bit less or more, but I hope we trust him. But we need more. We need the third leg to the chair to stand. Sometimes we forget about that. We have to be faithful to him. We have to not only to believe in him, not only to trust him, not only to ask things from him and trust that we will receive, we have to be faithful to him. We need to obey him. It says, faith claims God's promises and brings forth fruit in obedience. If we claim God's promises and we don't bring fruit of obedience, that is the faith, and this is written, is the faith of the devil. The faith of the devil. It says, presumption also claims the promises but uses them as Satan did to excuse transgression. Let's read this paragraph from the Desire of Ages. It says, faith will have led our first parents to trust the love of God and to obey his commandments. Presumption led them to transgress his law, believing that his great love will save them from the consequences of their sin. It is not faith that claims the favor of heaven without complying with the conditions on which mercy is to be granted. Genuine faith has its foundation in the promises and provisions of the Scriptures. Faith should be cultivated. If it has become weak, it is like a sickly plant that should be placed in the sunshine and carefully watered and tended. Faith should be cultivated. We need to work on that. We need to work on that. It's not like something we have and it's by default. We have to, it's like a plant, like a sickly plant that should be placed in the sunshine and carefully watered. It says, when you look to Calvary, it is not to quiet your soul in the non-performance of duty, not to compose yourself to sleep, but to create faith in Jesus, faith that will work, purifying the soul from the slime of selfishness. When we lay hold of Christ by faith, our work has just begun. Many people think, oh, Jesus died for me, and it doesn't matter what I'm going to do, I will be saved because I trust him. And he died for me, and that's it. And he will forgive all my sins. Let me tell you something. Maybe you will agree or not. Do you know that sins cannot be forgiven? You say, why do you say that? But sins cannot be forgiven. Do you agree with that? With this statement or not? It's a little bit, no. Sinners can be forgiven. Sins should be paid. There's no sin that will be forget. Oh, this nobody will pay for this sin. All sins, brethren, all the sins should be paid with death. Do you agree? Sinners, we can be forgiven, yes. God can forgive us. But somebody has to pay for that. And that is Jesus Christ. So every sin that I commit is not like, oh, God will forget about it. Somebody has to pay for that. Somebody has to pay, and it's Jesus Christ. So that's why when you look to Christ, remember, keep this in your mind. Every sin cost his life. Every sin cost his life. So when we lay hold of Christ by faith, our work has just begun. Every man has corrupt and sinful habits that must be overcome by vigorous warfare. Every soul is required to fight the fight of faith. Our life is molded by the faith. It says faith, and again, I want to underline, living faith or saving faith. We must have a faith that works by love and purifies the soul. The greatest burden we have to bear in this life is self. Unless we learn in the school of Christ to be meek and lowly, we shall miss precious opportunities and privileges for becoming acquainted with Jesus. Self is the most difficult thing we have to manage because we don't like to obey. We don't like that. Your temptations, your ideas, your feelings must all be laid at the foot of the cross. Then the soul is ready to listen to the words of divine instructions. And this is the last paragraph. It says, faith is trusting in God, believing that He loves us and knows what is for our best good. Thus, instead of our own way, it leads us to choose His way, to obey Him, to be faithful to Him. In place of our ignorance, it accepts His wisdom. In place of our weakness, His strength. In place of our sinfulness, His righteousness. Our lives, ourselves, are already His. Faith acknowledges His ownership and accepts its blessings. A saving faith. So once again, we need, for the chair to stand, we need 3 legs. First is to believe in Him. The second, to trust Him. The third, to be faithful to Him, to obey Him, and to listen to Him. This is a strong faith, a faith that will stand when we will be tempted, when we will be in difficulties. Hebrews chapter 10 verse 38 says, now the just shall live by faith. But if any man draw back, if you don't have the courage to jump in the wheelbarrow, if you draw back, he says, oh, I trust you, but I don't want to be there in the fire. My soul shall have no pleasure in him. Brethren, may God help us, each one of us, to remember this. Jesus died for me and for you. He paid for my sin and for your sins. And each sin that I commit, it's hurting Him. But He's ready to forgive me, to forget my sins. But He paid for that. And may God help us. And may God strengthen our faith. This is my wish and prayer. And remember, the just shall live by faith. Amen.